Hello. We are into the fourth segment of the videos on linguistics. This time it's on phonetics. We will discuss in the first video accent and intonation, which are together called the suprasegmental features of language. Normally, phonetics should not normally, ideally, or traditionally, phonetics would begin with a discussion of speech sounds. But I have chosen to start with the suprasegmental features. In this video, we'll be looking at syllables. We'll explain what a syllable is. We'll look at different kinds of syllables. We'll look at word stress and certain rules governing word stress. We'll explain what content words and grammatical words mean. We'll look at sentence stress. We'll look at intonation. And then we will see how all these things form the suprasegmental features of English. Not all of these, but intonation, word stress, and sentence stress are the suprasegmental features. We will learn why they are called suprasegmentals. We will learn what they are. So we'll begin with an explanation of what syllables are. We have heard the word syllables, we are familiar with it, but we need to have a very good clarity of what syllables are. So here we have a sentence which I have written here both for the meaning it has and also to demonstrate what syllables are. So let's read it. Vowels and consonants can be considered to be the segments of which speech is composed. So we'll look at the meaning later. Now let's look at the syllables. I've put a dot in when there are more than one syllable in a word. Here there is only one syllable in which there is only one syllable. Therefore, there is no dot. But in words with more than one syllable, here there are two, here there are three. You will find dots separating the syllables. So, vowels and consonants can be considered to be the segments. So you see how syllables work. So syllable is part of a word that you can produce in a single attempt. So vowels, to say va, I need one attempt, then I need to take a break and then make another attempt to say vowels. But in the case of which, I can say the whole word in one effort, which, speech. So see, that is how syllables work. A syllable is part of a word which can be uttered in a single effort. That is one way of explaining a syllable. We can also see another very important feature in a syllable. Within a syllable, there is always a vowel sound. There can be syllables which do not have a vowel sound, which is very rare. We will look at it later if possible, but as a rule, let us keep in mind that a syllable will always have a vowel sound in it. So here, va, well, a sound. And here only one sound is there, which is a, ka, s, a. So you have sound. And here you have two E letters standing for two A sounds, but only one A is pronounced. Dud. We would say considered. So it is not the red. So if it is the red, it will become two syllables. When we learn poetry, when we learn poetry written maybe 18th century and before, even in early 19th century, there are occasions when we have some syllables which are artificially articulated so that the number of syllables in a line can be increased. That's a poetic convention. Sometimes you'll have an elision where a syllable is kind of compressed so that one syllable is lost. Such things happen in poetry for the sake of the number of syllables in a line, for the sake of metrical uniformity. But we won't look at it right now. Here, for example, in Shakespeare's time, it is possible to read it as considerate if there is need for an additional syllable. But normally it would be considered. Okay. Now let's look at a formal definition of syllable. Syllable is a unit of pronunciation having one vowel sound with or without surrounding consonants, forming the whole or a part of a word. So there is one vowel sound in a syllable, and a vowel sound alone can be a syllable. For example, if there is when I say a man, a is only a vowel, and man has a vowel and also consonants before and after. So a syllable can have just one vowel sound. It can also have consonants before, after, or both. A syllable is typically made up of a nucleus, which is a vowel. So the vowel in a syllable forms its nucleus. Syllables are often considered the phonological building blocks of words. So now we have understood what a syllable is. So there can be words with one syllable or more than one syllable. Words with only one syllable, you have examples here. These are the same words I have taken from the previous sentence. I've just broken that sentence up into words. So you see all these red words are monosyllabic words, which means they have only one syllable. And the words in black are those which are polysyllabic, having more than one, which is vowels are have two, here consonants three, considered three, etc. etc. A word with two syllables is often called a disyllabic word. With three is called trisyllabic. There can be four, there can be five, there can be six. Any number of syllables can be there in a word. Normally, it will be around from 2 to 5 syllables, but there can be longer words as well. So monosyllabic means having only one syllable, and polysyllabic means having more than one syllable. And we are interested in polysyllabic words when we come to the feature called word stress or accent. In Indian languages like Malayalam or Hindi, we usually give equal importance to all the syllables in a word. For example, the word Malayalam, we give equal importance to ma, la, ya, and lam. Malayalam. All the syllables are given equal importance. But the English tradition is different. In English, when there is a polysyllabic word, a word with more than one syllable, one of these syllables will have an extra emphasis. See, here it is vowels, and here it is considered. See how it is here, it's on the first, stress is on the first syllable, or accent is on the first syllable, and here stress or accent is on the second syllable. The word Malayalam is pronounced Malayalam by us, by Indians, and an Englishman who is well trained in his own language and not in Malayalam would tend to say the word as Malayalam. If you look up in Daniel Jones's dictionary, that's how the pronunciation is given. There is a stress, Malayalam. The stress is given before ya sound. You have often heard people pronounce Indian words like Kovalam is pronounced as Kovalam by English people. They cannot give equal importance to all the syllables. So that's why Buddha becomes Buddha and Gandhi becomes Gandhi. So the stress shifts. And when the stress shifts or stress is given to one particular syllable, the whole pronunciation of the word can change. So you see how it becomes Kerala for the English people. So this works in the other way too. When we do not follow the stress pattern of English, we will have problem in pronouncing English words also. So the reason why I thought we will start our discussion in phonetics with accent is that it is this accent or stress that creates greater problem in our pronunciation of English than the pronunciation of individual sounds. Of course, certainly the pronunciation of individual sounds are important, but the pronunciation, the accent is also equally or even more important because the accent has the ability to disturb the phonetic structure of the word. So, towards attaining a greater mastery of English language, we need to have a better grounding of what is called word stress or word accent. Now, what is it? What is accent or stress? These are words that we can use interchangeably. Stress or accent in English means when there is more than one syllable in a word, one of those will attain or will come to have a greater emphasis. One syllable will have a greater emphasis in pronunciation. We'll look at it in greater detail now. We have examples here. Look at these words: conduct, conduct. Same spelling. Morphologically, they look the same. But here, this word is a noun, and the meaning is the manner in which a person behaves. My conduct during my college days was good, and so I am given a good in the conduct certificate. So the word conduct, which we are all familiar with, conduct, it means how a person behaves. At the same time, when we organize a program, we say we are going to conduct a program. We are going to conduct a program. So you see the stress in the verb has shifted to the second syllable. So all these words are disyllabic words. Two syllables are there. And you see how the stress works. In a noun, it's in the first syllable. In the verb, it is a second syllable. That is a general rule. We'll look at it in the next slide. But here you have conduct and conduct. His conduct was good. He conducted himself well. In the same way, we have here produce and produce. The farmers could not get good money for their produce. The farmers produced enough food for the people. Export. Thing that we have exported is export. Export, that is the action. Import is something we have imported. It's a noun. And import is the verb, the action word. Let us look at a few word stress rules. We must remember that stress or accent in English has to be learned word by word. So when you come across a new English word which we do not know, as advanced learners, we need to know the pronunciation of words. We need to look at the spelling. We need to look at the meaning or the shades of meaning. We need also to look at how that word is, where the stress falls. The stress is very, very important. For example, the word notorious and notoriety will sound very strange unless you know the stress, where the stress is going to be. Monarch and monarchy. So stress is of utmost importance in learning English language, and it is a feature that is new to us. Right. Let's look at these words here. These are, as I was saying, when we come across a new word in English, we need to look at its stress afresh because even though a few rules can be mentioned, there are no universal rules related to word stress. There can be exceptions. So we need to make it a point to learn the accent of individual words when we study English. So regularly make use of a pronouncing dictionary or a mobile app where you can get a feel of the accent. Now let's look at a few rules. There are a couple of rules that we can keep in mind. When in the case of disyllabic words, generally, if they are nouns, they will be the stress will be on the first syllable, and in the case of a verb, the stress will be on the second syllable. Let's look at nouns, adjectives, adverbs. They all have the same logic. Usually, the stress is on the first syllable. In the case of disyllabic words, parent, table, father, import, lovely, clever, happy, easy, seldom, rarely, early. I'm a parent. This is my table. My father has not come. This is a new import. What a lovely picture. He's a clever boy. This is a happy occasion. This is an easy problem. He visits me seldom. I rarely go for a movie. It's a bit early today. That's how stress on the first syllable sounds like. And stress on the second syllable, he embraced his friend. We need to import more sugar. I called my friend. Would you like to invest in this new project? I hope you got some idea of how the stress occurs in disyllabic words. There are a couple more other rules which we can keep in mind. Here is a word penultimate, which means before the ultimate, that is second from the end, penultimate syllable. In words like biographic, geographic, geologic, or words ending in ic sound, the stress is on the penultimate syllable. That is the syllable from just before the last, second from the end. Biographic, geographic, geologic, and words ending in shun, whether the spelling is SION or TION, as long as the pronunciation is shun, we'll have the stress on the penultimate syllable. Television, revelation, introduction. So I'm watching television. This is a revelation. Let me give you an introduction. See how it works. So whenever it's a shun ending word, these are all with shun sound. The stress is on the penultimate sound. That is the sound, the syllable, penultimate syllable, the syllable just before the last, just the one preceding the shun sound. Another rule is about these words which end in cy, ty, phy, gy, and al. The stress will be on the ante-penultimate syllable. Ante-penultimate means one before the penultimate syllable. That's the third from the end. So democracy, ability, photography, geology, electricity. India is a democracy. I have the ability to sing. Photography is my hobby. Geology is an interesting subject. I forgot to pay the electricity bill. Now words ending in al, critical, see ante-penultimate. This is ultimate, penultimate, ante-penultimate. Geological, biographical. Right. I'm just trying to give you a feel of English stress. Look at how the stress keeps changing in words related to photo, photograph, photography, photographer, photographic, photographical. This is a good example for how the pronunciation changes when the stress shifts. So this becomes photography, while this is a photograph. And here it is photographic. Okay, that is about word stress. Now, in sentences also, the words will have the same kind of stress. So, where we have studied stress in words, the same logic works when these words occur within a sentence. But beyond that, when we talk about sentence stress, we mean something else also. When we speak English in a sentence, unlike in Indian languages, there are some words which we do not pronounce very prominently. There are some words which we do not pronounce prominently. Let me read the sentence so you'll be able to know which are the words I do not pronounce with prominence. Vowels and consonants can be considered to be the segments of which speech is composed. So, vowels and consonants, I have slurred over and. I did not say vowels and consonants. I said vowels and consonants. So, Just an N sound was heard here. The same way here, consonants can be considered. I did not say consonants can be considered. I said consonants can be considered. Again, consider to be the segments, to be the, I have slurred over these words. So why is that so? In connected speech in English, within a sentence, we do have stress, but some words are stressed and some are not stressed. Where there is a stress, it is the same as in the word stress. Let us look at which words take stress and which do not take stress in a sentence. All the content words are generally stressed. What are the content words? Nouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs are the content words in English. They are called content words because they have independent meaning, they have an existence of their own, whereas these grammatical words in English are just there to facilitate grammatical um, connections within a sentence. The auxiliary verbs, pronouns, articles, prepositions, conjunctions, etc. are grammatical words. These are generally not very prominently stressed. So they all have weak forms in English. So that's another topic you need to look up on your own, weak forms of the for example, OF. The pronunciation of OF is of, but we rarely pronounce it as of. We say this book is made of paper. We won't say this book is made of paper. We will say this book is made of paper. So in the same way, all these have and, for example, sometimes we say just n, sometimes we just say nd, sometimes just the d sound will be heard. All these have weak forms, which when they come in sentences, they all tend to be weakened. We do not give them much stress. It does sometimes they even disappear, but often they will be there, but in an unstressed form. So content words are stressed, grammatical words are not stressed. But it is possible to pronounce stress grammatical words also. If you want to stress that, for example, I want to emphasize and, I would say vowels and consonants can be considered. If I want to stress can and, for some reason, I can say like that. But normally I would say vowels and consonants can be considered. So that's how it goes. Now you can look at these words which were not stressed. The red ones were not stressed. Conjunction, auxiliary, preposition. Whereas the stressed words, one is noun, noun again, verb, noun, noun, verb. All right. So inside the sentence, you can see vowels and consonants can be considered to be the segments of which speech is composed. That's how it will be read in actual contexts. This is sentence stress. Now we come to intonation. Intonation is how we say things rather than what we say. The way the voice rises and falls when speaking. Or the music, the rhythm of the language is called intonation. It indicates the mood of the speaker. Intonation brings in the emotional aspect. When we speak, we follow the word stress rules, we follow the sentence stress rules, all fine. But life come to your utterances when we bring in what is called intonation. I'm not spending a lot of time on intonation in this talk, but I'm just introducing it so that you will have an idea of what intonation is. Let's look at the sentence here. The coffee is nice. And here is a phrase, some water. I will demonstrate how intonation gives different shades of meaning to these two. The coffee is nice. Normally it looks like a sentence. But I can ask it as a question by the way I say. I want to ask if the coffee is nice. I can use this sentence for that. The coffee is nice. That becomes a question. By intonation, by the way I say it, it becomes a question. The coffee is nice, and then the confirmation comes. the coffee is nice. And if I'm not very sure if it is nice, I can say the coffee is nice. Or if I can even say the coffee is nice, that it's stress and intonation combined, saying that the coffee was okay, but there was something else I did not like in that particular context. This is intonation. And here, even with only two words, some water, I can express different ideas using just intonation. Let's look at it. I can ask somebody if they want some water. See, some water is asking if you want some water. And the confirmation would be some water. Yes, I would like to have some water, some water. And I don't expect to find water there and then there is some water. Some water, that expresses surprise. So this is, in very simple terms, what intonation is all about. Intonation, there are different types of intonation: rise, fall, fall, rise, fall, etc. But I am not discussing it in detail here simply because I personally believe that intonation is something that you pick up through your use of language, your exposure to language, and your actual use, because intonation depends on the mood and it is rather subjective. But for the exam, you will need further knowledge, which you will get from any textbook. So, all the things we discussed so far: stress, sentence stress, intonation, these are all called suprasegmentals. Why is that so? Let us look at this definition here. Vowels and consonants can be considered to be the segments of which speech is composed. So this is the segment. See, all these vowels and consonants occur in the segment. And you'll remember the stress mark I put. It is stress was somewhere here, above the segment. The stress marks, the intonation marks, they all occur above the segment. So this is a segment, and I have even the underline is part of the segment. Even the dots are part of the segment. These full stops are part of the segment, but the stress marker will be above the segment. That is why they are called suprasegmentals. So vowels and consonants are the segments of which speech is composed. Together they form syllables, which in turn make up utterances. Superimposed on the syllables, there are other features that are known as suprasegmentals. So don't be frightened by the word suprasegmentals. It just means word stress, sentence stress, and intonation. So that is about suprasegmentals. So in this session, we looked at syllables. Are very important. You need to have a good knowledge of how syllables can be separated. We looked at polysyllabic and monosyllabic syllables. We looked at a few word stress rules, and we also looked at what word stress is. We saw what a content word and grammatical word is, or the difference between content words and grammatical words. We looked at how sentence stress operates. We looked at intonation, and we understood that word stress, sentence stress, and intonation are called suprasegmental features. So we need to remember that in phonetics, it's very important to expose yourself to sounds and utterances in context. Listening is very important to improve your skills. This theoretical knowledge, along with your exposure, will go a long way in firming up our pronunciation. But English will always remain a foreign language to us unless uh, you are exposed to native kind of English from very small level itself. It will always remain a second language for us, but we can uh, make our language more and more intelligible and more neutral in terms of accent by practice and exposure. So all the best in that aspect, and thank you. In the coming videos, we'll be looking at the segmental features, which are phonemes, which are vowels, which are consonants, diphthongs, etc. Thank you again.